been a long-standing thing, but just kind of a brief idea of what your experience kind of has been like. That'd be great. You guys are nodding at me like very encouragingly, so I'm gonna let you know.
Yeah, so we've had just 2 placements. The first was a 7-year-old girl, and we're still friends with their family and everything like that. And the second was outside of our expected age bracket by about 5 years because he was 15.
Or about 13 years, because we really did plan to foster little kids, and then we dove right in.
Yeah, we were aiming for the younger, but we saw his name on the board a couple times, and we were like, well, we could maybe do that. Anyways, it developed and progressed, and now we've adopted him, and he's still with us.
He's 18, and he moved in when he was 15. We didn't necessarily plan to, you don't fully plan to adopt a kiddo, and it just kept being really a really good fit.
And they grow up some fast jokes all the time.
Yes. We have an 18-year-old.
2 years later, they're 18!
How did it happen? I'm Heather. This is Jason. We have had I think 3 or 4 placements. One of our placements we had for a year, and we had 2 little kiddos, so they went home, and then we had them back for a second placement. So we've had that, and we've also had a couple of babies that we've had just for between 4 and 8-ish months. And we've also done some respite care.
When you say respite, is that for other foster parents?
Yeah.
You kind of feel like because you used a lot of respites, you should probably do some
Yeah.
Matt and Jay, we have 2 boys, and they're our first placement. We've had them just over 2 years now, and it's been a whirlwind and crazy and amazing. And I think we just kind of like dove right in, not really knowing. I feel like you always kind of never really fully know what to expect. I don't know. I think you don't really think about time frames
What
too.
your license is for too. We were licensed for I think it was up to 4, broad range, so we didn't even know what age.
And so they're siblings, and you kind of just go. It's just a wild ride, but they've been amazing. We'll share more.
We can't forget our other 2. So I have one guardian, one daughter I have guardianship of. She's 27 now, and we have a 22-year-old who went through some rough times and moved in with us when he was 18. So he is still with us.
So we gotta pack.
Can't forget about our other 2.
Well, and our other 5 furry ones too. But
So I've had a total of 8 placements, and it's been 4 different sibling sets of 2. And 3 of those sibling sets had additional siblings in place with other foster families. And they generally stayed like 4 to 6 months, 4 to 8 months, around there. And I thought I would mostly do like 0 to 8, but I ended up, the range I've had is 2 months through 13 years. So I think it's kind of common to come into foster care with an idea of what you're going to do, and then that expands a lot a little bit of time. So that's been my experience.
Cool. We talk about the licensing process all of the time, but I would love to hear from one of you, maybe whoever has gone through it the most recently, the Reader's Digest version of the licensing process. If there was anything that you especially surprised you, or you had wished you knew it was going to entail maybe before you got into it.
It's intrusive.
Sure.
It is. It's very intrusive in a good way, because they have to really get to know you, but they talk a lot about your past. And you have to answer, I wasn't prepared for that, and you don't want to lie, but then you're also I'm telling you more than I tell my best friend.
or more than, like, I feel like I need to be like in four, like, closed doors and like written piece of paper that you're not gonna tell anybody else these things. But then you're also looking at this person going, you're gonna decide whether I take care of children. And you have to go into so much of what your past and your family's past and what your family life was. And for someone who came from a lot of trauma, there were things that I was like, I haven't even thought, I can't even remember the exact questions now, but I have never answered that question. And now that you're forcing me to answer that question, it's making me very emotional. And so there were a lot of discussions we had during that time of like, wow, this is bringing up a lot of emotions in me. But it's all in a safe space. And the person I worked with at the town, Alex, she's not here right now, was wonderful through the whole process. But yeah, that was something that I wasn't prepared for at all. Not that it's a bad thing, just prepare yourself for some emotional conversations.
Yeah.
I remember really liking the training and being surprised by that, because anytime you see a training, it's like, gotta do that. But I think it's really different now than the style we did, but I really appreciated how much we learned, and I was really surprised by a lot of what we learned, and I think that it was so helpful to have that foundation to be more prepared for when placements came. Because when placements come, there's a lot of mystery about what happened for these children. And so even having a sense of what's the most common reasons kids get into care and what's the most common experiences for children is helpful to give you somewhat of a sense of what they may have experienced, even though you don't actually know.
Walked away from those training thinking, man, every parent should should go through it. Just a parent should go through this training.
Changed how we parented our bio kids because we were like, oh, we're learning so much.
Yeah.
Development.
Yeah, and then on top of the thinking about a kid who's not in your environment and then coming into your environment, it doesn't prepare you fully for it, but it definitely gives you, when you're in the moment, you're like, oh, that's why we learned about the towels in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, you know? So, yeah, super informative, and I love that they've made it now different to fit, you know, like our day and age and time right now, where we can do some on our own, do some as a cohort, do some, you know, a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah. Bouncing off of what you were saying, I also found the interview portion to be kind of intrusive, and I think everybody does, because we're like private people in general, like we don't share everything with everyone. But I found it to be really positive in the end, because not only was it cool to be aware of like, we're trying to be a part of this system that has some broken pieces to it, and Skookum's trying really hard to kind of vet the people that it brings in and make sure that we're like actually prepared to do what's going to be required of us. And it also gave us a lot of like conversation topics of like, yeah, what did they ask you?
Yeah.
What did you tell them when they asked you this? Like, what did you tell them? You know, and just kind of like, I feel like, I mean, this entire process has been growth for us. But that in particular, I think, sparked some really interesting conversations and bonding opportunities.
Yeah. What has been the most tangible way your friends and community have been able to support you? What do you ask for? What should people be prepared to ask for help with?
I think that it really helped us reflect on like our small community and then our larger community, and just going through the process and like learning about the resources in town and kind of doing intentional reflecting on like, well, okay, in this situation, who would we reach out to if we needed this, or, you know, care overnight, or there was an emergency, or, you know, who is going to, like I work as a doula, and so often I think of like, who's gonna hold the parents so that they can care for the children. And so thinking about that communal part of that, and Skookum is such a big part of that. I promise they're not paying us to say it.
Our favorite thing that our friends do is just come spend time with our kids and kind of treat them like it's like an nephew type role, and just like engaging with them like on a human level has been super helpful.
We are both adopted and been through the foster care system. So his mother adopted him, and I adopted my daughter. So saying all this, though, this wasn't their intentions were to very much help and assist. What we didn't understand going into it is that we got placed with two very high needs kiddos, and it took two of us to manage these kiddos. And it took several days to even just manage the two of them together. Daycares and even nannies, like babysitters and stuff, cannot handle the two of them together. We could not expect our 70-year-old, very healthy mother-in-law to take care of these two kids for even an hour in our home. The first year, we didn't actually have that support. We had the support of bringing the food over, doing, what can we do? Can we take one kid and drop them off, transport? Even then, that was hard because they weren't safe in the car. So there had been things about jumping out of the car and running away. So this was very, very difficult, which brings me back to community. That's the one thing when they go, I don't know if I can even say where they go. The school that they go to has been incredibly supportive. Incredibly supportive. The daycare worked with us of separating them and putting them at two different schools. Skookum has helped with transportation, getting us a nanny to help us with transportation during the day because now the kids couldn't go to the same school. We didn't have transportation. We both work full time. So even though I didn't know this community up here, Skookum helped me to learn the community and learn support here. And the school, like lean on your school, lean on the counselors, lean on I think the moment that they saw that we were looking to them for guidance and not being hesitant to tell us how our kids were acting up at school, and that it was a team thing together, I mean, support left and right from the school. And now they're in a better place that for a little bit moments they can actually go to with Meemaw or Peepaw. But it took us 2 years to get there.
Yeah.
And so really rely on your community. As much support as you have from your family, you don't know what trauma they're going to come with and how the people in your family, extended family, can support these children, even if they want to. So.
And it's nice to have a group of people who know what you're doing, are informed what you're doing, and then support you in that. But even more so support like us. There were times when, it was really tough. And who knows if we would even be sitting at this spot right here, right now, without, unbeknownst to them even, that they just came in and swooped in and supported Heather and I, or supported our kids that we had at the time, when we might have thrown in the towel.
One thing that Skookum did when we were having a really hard time with one of our placements is they arranged an after-school fun time. They found someone to pick her up from school every day on Thursday and take her to the movies or the park, and it was just so huge because it was what she really needed, some quality one-on-one time, and we had 5 kids in our house, so she wasn't getting it. So just all the little things put together.
It is so crucial to have a good support system around you, whether that be family, immediate family, good friends, in common hobby groups, or church groups, or whatever it may be, whatever the group is of people that you put yourself in, they are involved with you in doing it. Like what Heather said, man, a lot of them would love to help in some way, and that's the way they get to help.
So I know for sure that Mayonnaise and Hillary, you have added children into your bio kids' lives. What have been the lessons you've learned of how to do that well, or how you learned to do it differently, or was it just, smooth sailing every single time? Yeah, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about your kids' reaction, right? Because you go through foster class and you made this big decision that your kids are impacted in your house as well.
We made up our plan when we started, but we decided that we would do it as a family. So we talked about it with the kids a lot before we even did it, and then they begged us to do it. So they were still actually are. They're always begging us to take more kids. And I'm always saying, stay home more and help me, and we can have more kids.
They're getting, yeah. One of them's got a car, another one's a teenager, you know, they're mobile. But yeah, I think for us it was a big family decision. And
we told them, like, if anybody changes, no one ever did this, but if anyone changes their mind, like, holler, say something, if this is too hard.
yeah.
And I thought we broke them when we had to take our first placement and drop them off, and we were all weeping. I was like, oh, we've done it, we broke our children, but
But
they seem
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, we made some strategic decisions around like age sets. So we didn't want like our 13-year-old at the time when we got our first, like when we were getting some placements, he was like, I want a 13-year-old boy. Like, I want a best friend. You know, we're like, doesn't really work that way. Because they don't realize, you know, and I think, I mean, our most recent respite was somebody who was similar age to our youngest, and we could see that there was a little bit of a power dynamic, you know, it made it a little bit harder. But I don't know that that's something that has crossed the lines, works or doesn't work. But for us, we made a decision to not take placements that were going to disrupt the order of the house, because our kids had been there and established a little bit of an order, and you know, and we didn't want to disrupt that and allow our kids to then still continue to lead. And
Hillary knows that's not a thing.
yeah,
We haven't tried it, so.
Yeah, similarly, we've found that the kid, my bio that's closest in age to the kids has the hardest time with the placement. And and the closer in age they are, the harder it is for them.
So it's the same.
Yeah. So that's been interesting. And when I started doing it, I talked to them about it, and they were like, okay. Because we also have some history in our family of some of our family members are adopted, and they're who they know. And so, but after our first placement left, we were devastated. And I asked them if it was something they'd want to do again, and they couldn't believe that I was asking them. So I thought, when they're like, you're asking us? We have a say? I thought they'd be like, hard no, like, let's not do this again. And then they were really thoughtful, and they both were quiet for a while, and they're like, yeah, let's do it again. Which really surprised me. I was not what I was expecting. But I've noticed we kind of have a pattern. It's like Christmas when the kids arrive. It's just like everything's bliss, everyone's so happy, everyone's just so excited. And then it doesn't take me long until we have a major take. Like, my bios just really lose it. They struggle so hard. The placements are also struggling because they're new. So there's a period of time where it's very ugly for both of those. And then we like slowly come out of that and settle in a rhythm. And then pretty soon, it's hard to remember when those kids went there, because it's like everyone's found their rhythm in that. And sometimes there's a flare, but in general, it gets pretty smooth. Like right now, placement I've had, it hasn't been 2 months, and we're in a really good space right now, which is very cool. I feel like we got there really.
you've come out of the
You're
low.
faster.
Yeah,
I always feel like it's 3 or 4 months
to get
that it
it there.
starts to feel.
Yeah, but they're significantly younger than my kids, so I think that's part of it. Yeah.
One thing we built into our rhythm for our entire family is what we call a grieving period, where for after a placement goes home, all of our long-term placements have been reunited. We take 4 to 6 months off, and we use it to keep in contact with the parents and help them out with babysitting and interacting and getting together and all that kind of stuff. But more so, we use it because we need that space to be all right with possibly doing it again. Because like Heather said, that first time of dropping those 2 off was just, I mean, I can't even imagine. I haven't lost a child, but you know, it was pretty devastating.
A good segue into something that's also on people's minds a lot is the point of foster care is to give bio parents the time and space to heal and get healthy. That means
already having a pretty good relationship with bio mom. So the transition felt a lot like bringing kiddo home. We knew that's where she was going back to, and that's what she wanted, and it was easy to kind of focus on like the positivity of that moment, and that they were able to achieve that and come back together. And I think about 2 or 3 months later, we were on the phone and we finally told her that someone else had moved in, and she was like, "What? But where does he sleep?" And that one room.
I feel like we've really lucked out because we've had some safe situations where we've been able to interact with the parents really well, and like what you guys are saying, after they go home, we've already got that established communication established. They, because it's safe, they've been to our house and we've seen where they're living, and we've established this relationship that seems like it's going to go on after the kids are. And I don't know that that is always the case. Probably not. But for us, at least, it was like 3 weeks ago, I think we randomly got a text from every one of our long-term placements with a picture of all of the kids. We were like, wait a second, this was like so timely, and it was just so fun to see these babies. That the couple babies we had now are 2 and 3 and 4 years old, and to hear and see that the older couple that we had are the things that they're doing in school, and that they're playing basketball and things like that. You're like, oh, we're still in contact with them. Doesn't make the saying goodbye hard or easier, but knowing that there's still a future makes it a little bit. Because I think that first time I don't
think it's easier to look back, because when you drop them off, you actually just really don't know. Like, you don't know what that parent is going to do, and they never have to talk to you again. So you feel like it's forever. It's easier for us looking. I was really upset, and so looking back, it's like, oh, it's okay because I've seen them, and we've even had that placement re-enter. So it doesn't mean that their lives are going to be perfect at home. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them again. So it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect for them, but we do know that we can have heard from them and they are okay.
It's been 2.5 years. We have been very open with the parents, know their family, and it ebb and flows with the situation they have going on and how much of a part of their lives they let us in or we hear from them. They've stayed at our house. The first several months we were very much about reunification and trying to support that. But I will admit they've been with us for, it makes me emotional now, 2.5 years, or going on 2.5 years. They call us mom, dad. They were extremely close and constantly being asked by them if we're going to keep them forever, which we can't answer.
The placements go back to parents, which I feel sad about, but they've all gone to other foster families, so that's been great. But it's definitely the hardest part, is saying goodbye to kids that have been in their care. It's the hardest over all the other things for me, and it doesn't get easier. But similarly, being able to stay in touch with kiddos helps, and you don't know that until you've gone through it a few times. I have one sibling set that I thought we would be able to stay in touch with, and we haven't really, and that's been so hard because I don't really understand why, and I love them so much, and I would just love to show them that, when I can. And so it does happen sometimes that you can't stay in touch with them, and those things linger and don't feel great. But most of the time it seems to work out.
I think the number one thing that I hear from people who never being a foster parent is this reason that they say oh, my heart would be broken when they leave. And I know all of you, and you are all tender-hearted people, and that your hearts are breakable and break. So I just think it's really great that you're willing to.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I hear is I could never love a kid that much and then say goodbye. And it's like, or I'd love them too much.
Yeah.
And if you do it any other way,
Offensive,
it's,
really.
yeah, if you do it any other way, then love them
We're like,
like they're your own children or they're part of your family. I feel like it's just not the right way to do it, maybe. And so it's a very true statement, but you can, and you do, and it's hard.
I feel like carrying that pain is like an extension of that love that we develop for these kids. Is it's like, okay, I love you, and it's okay to say goodbye, and like there's more to it, and like I feel like it's part of the gift of that love.